Okay, so we're going to take the day today and review pretty much where the bulk of your points are for this course, okay, which is in this last project, okay. So you'll find what I'm going to, you'll find this portion that I'm going to go over this part of it in week 7, okay, because that's where you guys will be posting it. It's due in week 7, okay. So we're going to go over the aspects of this project, okay. The first part of this is you're going to have 3, and it doesn't matter which one of these 3 options you choose to take. They all equal out to about the same, okay. I'm going to choose probably what is the most popular one to kind of review first, okay. Okay. So this is the most popular version of this, of the 3 options, okay? The first one is, it's a movie analysis, okay? So I need you'll get to choose a movie. I have also allowed The Office, which is a TV series, okay? But then you can choose a couple of different episodes of The Office if you wanted to. So I have allowed that as well, okay? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to choose a movie, okay? The only caveat there is I'm limiting the number of movies that there are that you guys can choose any one pretty much. If you have questions, certainly run the movie by me, and I need to make sure that I can see that it applies to business. Because basically, what you're going to do is you're going to take excerpts out of that movie, okay, and run through the paper as to how that movie you would apply the principles of this class, principles of management, to that movie, okay? A popular one is The Wolf of Wall Street. Pretty easy one, pretty blunt, okay? Pretty self-explanatory. Not a whole lot of things need, that's a movie about finance business. Not a great one. It's a great example of what not to do in business, okay? And what can go wrong in business. So it's an easy one to do. But the point is that I'll only allow 3 people to choose that movie, okay? So what you'll have the opportunity to do is this week is you're actually going to, if you notice, there's an assignment due in week 4 that says, post your topic for your paper, okay? That's a short assignment, not a big deal. It is worth a few points, but it's not. But what I'm looking for is a paragraph or 2 telling me what option you chose, okay? Whether that's the movie or the other 2 options that I'm going to give you guys, or and why you chose that particular option. So I want to hear why you selected that, okay? One of the other options is just interviewing a business manager, okay? And we'll get into the specifics of that one in a minute. But that's, again, maybe you know somebody who's a manager and that's who you want to interview. Who gives you a good example of what that is. And, that's the reasoning for that. Again, a short paragraph, 6 to 8 sentences, okay? But why you wanted it, which one you're doing, what your topic is, okay? And in this case, you're going to be selecting the movie and telling me a little bit about the movie and where that fits into management, okay? Basically, you're going to pre-write your thesis statement, okay? If I'm the English professor, when you do that, okay? So you're going to give me kind of your thesis statement, give me a little background. I really like this movie because it really shows what you don't want to do in business, which is The Wolf of Wall Street. Because that one is definitely it. But I'm only limiting it to the first 3 people, okay? The reason why is because the first class I ran this particular assignment on, I had 8 people do The Wolf of Wall Street. What do you think happens after you hear about the first 3 of those? It's the same thing, yeah. It's really the same. You're hearing the same thing over and over again. You're not getting anything different. So, because this leads into a discussion assignment in week 8, okay? So what we're going to do is so that's why we're going to kind of limit it to 3. Because basically after 3, you're not hearing anything new. It's really about the same, okay? So, and this kind of gives you an outline of what to follow, okay? This is posted in that week 7 slot, okay? So you write an introduction, kind of a thesis statement on, tell us a little bit about what the movie's about, okay? I can honestly say I haven't watched every movie, okay? But, and I'm pretty open as long as you can sell me on the movie you choose, okay? I've had some people take some off the wall ones and show how they can apply them to business. I'm okay with that, okay? But the trick is, what you have to do is you choose something that's not real self-evident, is to convince me in that short little paragraph or two that I'm asking you guys to write this week, okay? So convince me that you want to do that and why you want to do that. Most of the time, if you can sell it, I'm okay with it, okay? So you basically, in that introduction, you're going to do talk about what the movie's about. The main body of the paper is taking the concepts of business and applying to them. Sometimes that's leadership, as we're going to get into probably next week. It might be the areas of management. It might be applying them to the history of management, okay? On any way that you want to approach that is good, as long as you're tying it back into what we're covering in the course. So you can take a look at the course outline, okay, and kind of think of where those theories would apply and add them to them. And then you're going to kind of wrap that up in, a conclusion, okay? Tell me about what is good, what was bad about it, okay? The Wolf of Wall Street, for instance, you're going to probably have 10 or 12 things that are bad, but there are a couple of things in that movie that are good, okay? Although it's much easier to pick out the bad in that case and not emphasize the good, but there are some good. So I want you to look at both aspects, both good and bad, okay? There's some, at the bottom of this, there's definitely some writing tips, okay? Here is a short list of films that you guys could choose. There is plenty of others that that are out there. Again, all you have to do is basically sell me that. Okay, out of these, I've had a couple people do most of the ones. Horrible Bosses seems to be one that comes up pretty often. There's Wall Street is another one, both 1 and 2. The Social Network has come up a few times. The movie on Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, has come up a couple of times as well. That's not up there, but that one definitely has come up there. But I've also had people choose other movies too. It's whatever interests you, okay? And it's all pretty much up to you as to how you would like to approach this. Again, I'm pretty open. Convince me that it applies to management, and I'm probably going to agree with you, okay? But that's what this assignment this week is for you guys. In this one here, you're going to give me the movie, and the quicker you get your assignment in, the more likely you are to get your movie. There are 17 people in this class, so if the first 3 people decide they're going to do The Wolf of Wall Street, then that's closed, and I'm going to send you a message back on, hey, you're going to need to choose another one. Okay, so the quicker you get those paragraph summaries into me, the more likely you are to get the movie. Typically, this is the only one that we run into a problem with actual choices. Okay. The next part of this is going to be the interview is a choice. Okay. So basically, in this one, you're basically choosing somebody to interview. Okay. This might be, if you're working now, that could be your supervisor. Okay. It might be somebody that you know. I had in a couple of other classes, I had parents who were owners of businesses, okay, and then chose to interview and kind of shadow on their own businesses. So this is entirely up to you. Okay. Yes.
Do you actually have to go in and shadow?
Now I'm a little more open to that. Typically, given the situation, if the opportunity presents itself, at least for an on-premise one-time visit, it would be helpful. Or you could do a virtual visit. Okay. Mainly, that visit part is the sense of being able to get a sense of what their operation is that you may not be able to from the interview process. Okay. Also, it gives you a little bit of an opportunity to see how that person manages, okay? So like I said, it's one of those where I've been up, this one here, given our situation, I'll be a little bit more open, okay? Typically, yeah, I would like you to go in and actually shadow them because that would be the best experience, okay? But in this case, I'm kind of open to it as long as you can kind of get a sense of how they manage from your own observations, okay? And I'll leave that up to how you can derive that, okay? Sometimes it's a longer interview, and you could do that. You could give them, in this case, you could do some things like asking them in the interview, asking them how they would handle a particular situation, okay? To get a little bit more of a sense of how they would do those things, okay? But basically, it's the same length. They're all about 7 pages, 5 to 7 pages long. So you're not really doing anything. So basically, you're going to choose an interview, person to interview, kind of get a little bit of background in that introductory part. You're going to want to give some background to them, okay? Set up and conduct the interview, and then that shadowing phase, we can be a little bit more creative on how we can get that accomplished, okay? But basically, in that last phase that you would normally shadow is kind of seeing how they really truly work within a workplace and kind of how the business functions, okay? So those are the types of things that if you're choosing this one out, may be a little bit more challenging. And then basically, you're gonna basically write the report basically in the same type of fashion. Summary, give you kind of an idea what their background is of the individual, okay? Make sure you include what your questions were that you asked in the interview process. And in this one here, you can actually do it as question, answer, okay? What their answer was, and then wrap it up in a summary about how you feel they applied their managerial skills, okay, in your conclusion, okay? So, and there is some, there's definitely these 5 points. You're not limited to those 5 questions, okay? As a matter of fact, you're probably going to be hard pressed to be able to fill 5 to 7 pages if you don't ask a few more questions, especially now because you can't shadow, okay? Or you can't shadow in the same format or whatever. Typically, you could get away with some type of shorter interview and more in the shadowing, whereas now probably you're going to have to ask more questions, and because you're probably not going to you may not have the opportunity to shadow at all, or you might be able to only get in there once, okay? Again, a little bit of some tips for the paper, okay? This is, again, some example interview questions. There's 17 of them that you can select from. These 5 here, okay? These points here you've got to cover, okay? But when you get down to these questions, it gives you a little bit of a guideline. You don't have to ask all 17, and you may decide you want to ask something else, okay? So you're not limited to those in any way, shape, or form, okay? But in this one here, I will allow you guys to kind of, here's the question I asked, here's the answer they gave, okay, as far as a format. You don't have to do it all in a narrative function. You can kind of do it as more of a transcript type function where you would question the answer. As long as you pull everything together in the end of what you thought about that, okay? Questions on this one? Any other questions on this one? Okay. Your third option, I have had people choose it. Get back to that one. Is going to be the case analysis. Okay. Okay. So basically, this is what a case analysis looks like. Okay. This is actually one of those cases that are there. There are 6 of them on the bottom of that page that you can select from, okay? This is the one that requires probably the least amount of legwork, okay? And it definitely would appeal to those people who want to just be able to think about a situation, okay? Anybody here familiar with doing a case study? Anybody done? Okay, we have one, okay. So you kind of follow, it's a pretty easy format, okay? Basically, this is the situation. Whatever, in this one here, it's the Centurion operation at Philips Electronics, okay? You're going to read this case. This is an actual case, an actual business situation, okay, that was put together by these 4 authors, which is basically they're going into a business and they're looking at a situation, in this case, the Centurion operation and how they applied entrepreneurial aspects, entrepreneurial change to a big existing company like Philips Electronics, okay? So you kind of read through there. It's going to give you some history. It's going to give you what their problems were. It's going to tell you how they what they did to solve them, okay? And you're going to basically, so this one here, pretty self-evident, I should say. You kind of read it. It is going. They're all, because there's a lot of detail in them. There are going to be 10 to 12 pages of reading, okay? And you're going to be able to get some information for them. Now, when we go over here, the case analysis, basically, when you're doing it here, is the format of it is what I usually call the anatomy or the skeleton of it. Is basically you're going to present one part of it's going to be the background. So the first part of that's probably going to be a page or 2 of background, okay? Which is you're going to take what those authors did and condense it down, okay? A little bit of history about what the problem is, how to get there, all those types of things. So then you're going to get into identifying the problems, okay? Think about what those problems are. In other words, by performing an analysis, just thinking about how you would handle those problems, and then developing what you would do if you were the manager. So the case study typically is going to put you in the situation of being the manager based on what you're reading, okay? How would you handle that situation, okay? Think about those options, okay? This I'll post up there, it's not up there. This one's a little more extensive, but it goes into how you would be able to develop those and how you're going to wrap this up typically, and it gives you kind of the anatomy of it, walks you through step by step, okay, if you choose this option. Okay, so this is an option that's pretty straightforward, doesn't have a lot of, the case studies you can choose from are down here. So this one's really straightforward, okay, it's basically you read it, you analyze it, and you write about it, okay. Probably not the most heavily chosen option, okay? But it's one of those that's there for those that like to do independent total work, okay? And some people actually do like reading the case studies, okay? I will tell you from a grading perspective, okay? There are advantages and disadvantages to all of these. Okay. Now, the ones I will tell you, though, that are, I'm probably a little more critical on the movies because they're less straightforward. Okay. Because it's not going to be self-evident. It's going to something you're going to have to really dive into the movie and really give me those reasons and how it applies to management. And I'm going to want to see that through your writing. Okay. Like I said, the case study and the interview, much more straightforward. Okay. Because of the way they're actually out there, it is pretty straightforward. You're not going to be able to have it's not quite as intense as far as the thinking process goes. The movies are a lot more fun. Because basically you watch the movie and then go ahead and do that. All right. This is up there, guys. This is the exact rubric I'll be using to basically how it's split up. Remember, this is a significant part of your class grade, okay? So when I'm looking at this, basically roughly a third, okay, are in the research, the content, and how you put the paper together. Okay, this is definitely a full term type paper. Okay, 5 to 7 pages in length. Okay, and you must have citable references. The only one that you can get away without, and probably not a lot of references, it would be obviously which one? Actually, movie, absolutely, you'd have references for. At least for the movie, you would at least have the movie itself. Okay. Which one might not have as many references? Well, we've eliminated the movie. Now we got a 50-50 shot, guys. Huh? The interview, right? The interview, because you're actually asking people of, what they're doing and how they're doing it. So it's more of a first person type of writing. Okay, so I'm not looking for necessarily for references, but I'm glad you brought up the movie, because that is the most common on this particular one. Is probably the most common mistake that most everybody makes when they're doing the movie. You have to cite the movie, okay? Because you're writing about the movie, okay? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to cite that movie, okay? You're also probably in that paper should have at least 2 to 3 others, because remember, you're applying management theory to it, right? To that movie. Can you apply management theory and not cite anything? No, because you're going to try to apply management theories, you're going to have at least some other information. So on the citations aspect of it, on the movie, it's going to be the movie and probably 2 or 3 others. Your case study is probably going to have the most amount of references to it. Probably somewhere at least 3 to 5 in there, because part of that is you're going to have to research. Part of that analysis is researching your history. Who else has had problems like this? How did they solve them? Okay. What types of management theories are you using in that case? So you're probably going to have probably a minimum 5 to 6 of those as you go along. Now, this leads into, this is all, okay, so the way the timeline works is this week by Monday, you're going to actually post in this one here, inside the shell, you're posting that short paragraph, 1 to 2 paragraphs of what we talked about as far as your short paper. Okay, which one of these 3 options are you choosing, and why? Okay, and how it applies to management. Okay, the interviews are going to be probably pretty short, but you still need to tell me who you're interviewing, why, how you relate to them, and how that works. Okay, so then in week 7, the full paper is due. So that's 3 weeks from now. Okay, and then in the last week, week 8. Okay, minus the final exam. Okay, is the final piece of this. Okay, since this is in a hybrid format, the discussion for week 8. I want you guys to do a short video clip, okay? Basically no longer than 5 minutes at the most, okay? Somewhere in the 3 to 5 minute range. Talking about your topic, okay? And summarizing your paper, whatever option you chose. Whether that's the movie, whether that's the movie, whether that's the interview, or that's the case study, okay? Because we're in a short format, this would have normally been a classroom presentation, okay? But in our short 8-week format, we're not going to be able to get that done. So what we're going to do is, then I want you guys to at least go to at least 2 or 3 of these other ones and make some comments on the videos and watch the videos of what other people chose, okay? You don't have to appear in the video. If you want to do a short 2 or 3, 4 slide PowerPoint, I'm okay with that. And just go ahead and talk over the PowerPoint. Okay? So, or you can just talk on the video. It doesn't matter to me, just as long as you're delivering the point of, in this discussion, of what your project was about. Okay? So, questions on this last part? Okay? And again, I want you guys to just kind of think about what's important here, how you're going to manage to make that happen. Okay. And you can be as creative as you want to. I've had people who've done a short video. I had a couple of them who did in the actual full presentations who did a couple of. I had 2 people do videos last year. Who both of them did interviews because what they did is they went and videotaped the shadowing and was able to intersect those into their presentation. Okay, this is a short one, just a summary. Again, give us the Cliff Notes version of what the business is about. If you're doing a movie, give us a short history of the movie, kind of how you, and then tell us how you apply management theory to it. Okay. This one here, again, is going to be one of those where it gives us an option to take a look at what everybody else has done, and we'll be able to include that into it. Questions? Any questions on this? Huh? Okay. All this material is up there, but I wanted to take this time really to go through it, make sure everybody understands it, at least heard it one time through. Because there is multiple options. There are a bunch of different ways to address this. Okay. So, there isn't any questions, guys. Actually, we'll get out of here a little early today. Okay. We'll end it there. If you guys do develop questions over the week, not sure how to tie something in, any of those types of things, approach me on Friday or email me. So that way I can go ahead and get those answered for you, because it is a little bit more complicated. You're also probably going to see a lot of feedback on your topics when I go through those next week. Okay. Because if you just give me 2 sentences, I am definitely coming back at you going, you're going to have to tell me how this is going to apply. Okay. So the big thing about it is, make sure you're a little bit more detailed in your outline and describing what you're doing and how you're going to apply those theories. Okay. So that way I can see where you're going with the paper. That's the whole object of this, posting your topic, and to limit the video part of this. But for the most part, really, I want to know where your thinking is. Okay. If I can see where your thinking is, it's not going to be a big deal. Okay. But I do get people who like to post a couple of sentences, and then we're going to have that discussion back and forth, because, guys, this is a huge part of your grade. Okay. So we want to make sure that you understand this and that you actually put the effort in. Okay. All right. That's all I had for today, guys. Got any questions? Give you a little extra time. Go take your midterm. Is anybody in here take the midterm? Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Open till Monday, but I may not be available on Monday night if you guys wait that long. Thank you. I don't think you're going to be able to. I think you're going to have to do it all in one step. That's not, it's the only thing that the quizzes you can kind of go back to, and things like that. But the way the midterm is now, it's set up, maybe you're going to have to do it kind of all together.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll probably take you. Most everybody, the average is maybe an hour and 15 minutes or so.
Okay.
I allow 3 hours, but I mean, I don't think anybody's really ever. I've only had maybe a couple people take that long. Yeah, it's open book. Yeah, absolutely. No problem, guys.